I wrote down all of my biggest wins for 2025 and 18 lessons that define the year. And I think these will be super valuable for me moving forward, and hopefully you can find some value in them as well. So let's dive into the wins first, and then I'll share the lessons. So if we're looking at wins, these are the big ones. My revenue for Tribe Digital is up 41% year over year. The profit is up about 60% year over year. I read 35 books. My net worth went up by 3x this year. It's going to be hard to replicate again in 2026, but that was a big win. I tracked calories and workouts for the whole year. I hit 7% body fat and started a bulk later. So I'll just show you, this is a picture of kind of before and after. So this was January and this was June or July. This is the leanest I've been, about 7% body fat. After this, I started a bulk and started gaining some more weight again, but intentionally. And yeah, it was pretty fun. I hired some great new writers for Tribe Digital. I signed some fantastic clients, some of which are truly dream clients. Also had my biggest year in terms of number of new clients acquired. I traveled a dozen times. I got to host my brother-in-law at our home for 5 months, which was pretty cool to just be in that position and help him out. I hardly got sick. That was a huge win because I got sick several times the year before. I launched 4 different digital products in 5 different launches, and that generated about $85,000 in revenue. I added 15,000 LinkedIn followers, a little over 1,000 a month. I had Wildcard Wednesdays with my wife start kind of mid-year, but basically go try out a new restaurant every week. This has been a ton of fun. I did 3 quarterly retreats, all with my wife, also a ton of fun. This is where we basically go and just review the past quarter. We go like a couple hours away, stay at a hotel, and it's like a 2-3 day thing. And I landed a backflip wakeboarding. I was gonna show you that. Let's see. Okay, hopefully you can see this. This is the backflip. You could hear my brother, he's pretty excited for me. Immediately try again, and second time didn't go quite as well. But pretty fun, pretty awesome. So those are the big wins for the year. The only other note that I'll make on this is my ethos for the business this year was to 10x my traffic. I just wanted to book way more sales calls, and I knew I would grow the business as a byproduct. I didn't 10x it, but I probably 2x'd my traffic, and you can see the results here. And then on a personal note, it was to, like, my ethos for the year, my motto for the year was, my wife and I said, this is the year of building a foundation. We just had a kid, we'd moved to a new spot, and like the business was actually doing pretty well. And so we were able to really set ourselves up foundationally with health, with our family, with finances, all of the above. And so I think we achieved both of those goals, and I'm very proud of that. There were plenty of losses, but I just want to cover the wins here. Okay, let's move to lessons. So 18 lessons. We'll go through one at a time. So let me get rid of this and come in. All right, so number 1, early mornings and reading and journal are awesome. I just noticed that on the days when I wake up early, I read something and I write in my journal, I'm just a happier person. And if you can figure out what makes a great day and incorporate that into the vast majority of your days, you are winning at life. Number 2, pursuing skill-based hobbies is also awesome. So a non-skill-based hobby might be something like hiking or going for a walk or even listening to a book. A skill-based hobby is something like wakeboarding or skiing or soccer or pickleball or ping pong. It doesn't have to be a sport, it could be chess. And what you do with those is you can track and you can see your progress. And that's just so much fun. I think it's why I like business, is because you can track and see the progress as well. So whenever I have hobbies, I just want to make them skill-based. Lesson number 3, reading books improves my quality of life, both fiction and nonfiction. As a kid, I loved fiction. As an adult, I love nonfiction. And now I'm 29 years old. I love reading both of these. If I read both of them, my quality of life is just massively improved. Lesson 4, I made time for family trips, friend trips, health, quarterly retreats, and more, while also growing my income, my personal take-home income by 60%. That is awesome. I always hear people talking about trade-offs and you can only do one thing well. And I just feel like that isn't true. I feel like I made great progress with my business and also a lot of great progress with my life. And so this was a good lesson for me. All right, jumping to lesson 5. There's a time for exploring your curiosity and there's a time to lock in. And those don't necessarily coalesce. Brief story. So I read a book called The Sovereign Child. Really interesting book. The idea is when you raise kids, let them have unlimited screen time, eat when they want, go to sleep when they want, eat what they want. Basically treat them like adults. They can make their own decisions. Don't use any negative reinforcement or punishment. They throw a dish on the ground. You, instead of getting mad at them, you try and figure out, okay, what caused them to throw this dish on the ground, get curious, and lots of good takeaways from the book. But one of the bad takeaways that I had was, I should just explore, let my curiosity drive my life. And so I stopped doing some of the hard things to do that require some discipline and let my curiosity win for a couple of months. And what happened with my business is my revenue in January was great. And then it went down in February, it went down in March, it went down in April. And that was the last straw. I was like, okay, I think there's a time for this, but it's not now. I need to lock in. And I did. And I was able to turn things back around. Lesson 6, being a father is awesome. So for those of you who are parents watching this, you already know this, but so fun to see a little version of yourself and your spouse growing, learning, and interacting with you. They come to the world just with like the highest hopes of having a great relationship with their parents, and that is a lot of fun. Okay, lesson 7. Most important things are relationships. So there was one month this year where a lot of stuff happened. That month of the Charlie Kirk shooting, stuff happened within my church, and it was a bit jarring for me. It hit me hard, where it kind of just took me out of this myopic perspective that I had with my life recently. So zoomed in on my little life, my business, on making progress, and just reminded me about what's actually important to me. And the answer is relationships. Both the relationship with myself and others, with God, with family, friends. Like, that's what I care about. And so incorporating that belief into my life more and more was a big outcome of that tough month of September this year. Lesson 8, positive reinforcement dominates negative reinforcement. And then track the small wins. So brief note on this. Basically, I've heard the Hormozis talk about this a bit, how with their company, they want to use positive reinforcement as much as possible and not use negative reinforcement. And the idea is, like, if you're working at McKinsey or BCG or Bain and you're a top tier consultant, you kind of have this minimum bar that you have to hit. That is, if you don't hit it, you'll be punished, you'll be fired, or you'll be in big trouble. And a lot of people are so afraid of that consequence that they'll just do the minimum, but they'll never use their discretionary effort. And I believe that positive reinforcement gets people to make decisions for themselves and to use their discretionary effort. So instead of punishing people, you just reward them for doing the positive things. So as a parent, this has become very, very relevant. And I try not to have this negative reinforcement for my child, but I try to reward them when they do positive things, whether that's a clap or a pat on the head or whatever it may be. But also for myself, this has been huge. I used to beat myself up really bad. Like when I played soccer in high school, if I had a bad game, I would like go on a run for like 5 miles listening to rap music, and like it's freezing cold outside, and I'd come back and punch a punching bag for a while. Like I'd be so upset. And I don't do that anymore. I've gotten much better at rewarding myself for the positive things and not dwelling on the negatives. And that's kind of where the track the small wins comes into play. If you want to make progress anywhere, start tracking, and then definitely track those wins, because just by doing that, you're giving yourself positive reinforcement that you can do more of it. Which leads me to lesson 9. Awareness is the first step winning at anything. So I really noticed this year when I started tracking my calories. I'd never tracked those before, and I just focused on getting consistent. Same calories every day, minimum protein bar. And just by doing that, I started seeing massive improvements. I started tracking how many hours of sleep. I started tracking my steps. I started tracking a couple of key metrics for my business. So minutes that I'd spend creating content for myself and minutes that I'd spend doing outreach. And by tracking those, I was able to start recognizing patterns and start making improvements. And it really is the first step. If you want to improve at anything, start tracking it. Get awareness. Lesson 10, if you focus on the process, your goals will come to you. They will happen as a side effect. It's very easy to focus on, I want to hit $1 million a year in revenue or in profit, and just obsessing over that instead of obsessing over the things that get you there. And so if I were to say, I want to spend 10 hours a week creating content and 5 hours a week doing outreach, and I focus on that process, and everything, all my energy goes towards hitting those goals, then that goal of $1 million in profit or in revenue, that will happen as a side effect. You have to find the cause and effect, like what's the process that's going to get me to the goal. But then just focusing on the process instead of obsessing over a goal makes a really big difference. Lesson 11, clear calendars are awesome when you're motivated, and they suck when you're not. And I shouldn't even say motivated, I should say disciplined, perhaps. Having an unstructured calendar is a huge blessing. You can get so much done, so much creative work particularly. But if you are not in the groove and you're not disciplined and you don't follow through with your commitments, then it really sucks. You might get sucked into YouTube rabbit holes, be on social media way more, not make progress. And so I've been on both ends of that. And if you have a clear calendar, it just requires a lot of responsibility. Lesson 12. No cheap dopamine for the first 4 hours every day is a good rule of thumb. So I just am a big believer, if you don't jump on social media first thing in the morning, but you focus on your priorities, that you will have a better life. This isn't easy to do, but man, this makes such a big difference. This is one of those keystone habits that, like going to bed early at night, just massively improves your life. There's 18 of these, by the way. Lesson 13. If you can get to 100K a month in personal income, you win the money game. So a lot of people, myself included, will think, oh man, if I can just save up X amount of dollars, then I could buy this piece of real estate or commercial real estate or have this much in the stock market, and then I can do XYZ. And it's always some goal out there. And people think about retirement all the time and how much money do I need to have to retire? I actually love doing that stuff. I'm really interested in personal finance. But if you're a business owner, this is a great question. It's like, if you can just get to 100K a month in personal income, you win the money game, period. And you don't have to, your investments won't matter as much. Like, of course they matter to some extent, but if you put it in the S&P 500 versus in real estate versus in crypto a little more volatile, but basically you're going to win the money game if you could get there. And so if you just focus on that, then you don't have to be so worried about everything else. Lesson 14. When I treat sales calls like I paid for them to get there, I close a lot more. So I do a lot of free marketing. So I post content, I do outreach. It doesn't cost me dollars. But when I act like it does, like, man, this person, I just paid $350 to hop on a call with this person, then I'll jump on and I'll have a different kind of energy about me. And I want to work with the person if it makes sense. And I'm much more tempted to actually push the sale and make it work. And so that's just a nice like frame of mind if you're going into sales calls. And maybe that number isn't relevant to you. Maybe it's 100 or maybe it's 1,000. But whatever that is, if you could just say, I'm going to act like I just paid $1,000 for this call, then you'll take it so much more seriously and like likely close a lot more deals. Lesson 15, will this make me more money? This is a great filter if you want to make more money. I used this for a period of about 3 months. And every time there was a client, they were a little bit outside of the scope of what I do, or they wanted some consulting, I would ask this question, and the answer was yes. So I just kept saying yes to new stuff. Bunch of different clients, different packages, different pricing structures, and I said yes to a lot of it. I will say this comes at a massive cost. You might lose some efficiency. You might have a lot of extra work to do, but you will make more money. And that is what happened to me. I had to dial it back after a few months of doing this because while I was making more money, it was coming at a cost that was a little too pricey. Lesson 16, you can do way more than you think. So there's been 2 big periods in my life where I've realized this. The first was when I was running the business solo, and I thought I could only handle maybe like 5 or 6 clients, but I wanted to test myself, and I got up to handling 10 clients. I was writing on X and LinkedIn for several of them. The volume was really high, and I was just doing that myself. So I'd write for 10 clients. I'd do 2 Monday, 2 Tuesday, all the way through Friday. Then I would try and do admin stuff Saturday as much as I could. I was still doing sales calls, still doing client calls. It was a lot. The second time was this year. I let go of an account manager. I stepped in and handled that role while growing the business to levels that it's never been at before. And I was able to do a lot more than I thought I could. So just a good reminder, whenever you need to, there's another gear that you can shift to. All right, 2 more. Lesson 17, interfering behaviors are great ways to change. So if I come home and the couch is right there and I sit down first thing and I turn TV on, and that's a habit I don't want to have anymore, the easiest way to change that is to find somewhere in that chain of behaviors, one small shift that I can make. So if I want to work out when I get home, then I have my gym clothes right at the front door. And then I open it and they're right there and I can change right away. Or if I want to cook dinner when I get home, then I put out a couple of the ingredients just right at the front door so I could just pick them up, go to the kitchen and chop them or whatever it is. And this has been just super useful for getting rid of bad behaviors, poor behaviors, bad habits. So I'll give you one example from my life. I've had a very hard time over the last 5 years getting to bed at a consistent early hour. And so what I started to do was I'd find a good audiobook that I could listen to, and I'd set an alarm, a bedtime alarm, either at 8 or 8:30. And once that went off, it was time to start getting ready for bed. So I'd help put my son down. I would turn my audiobook on and I'd go and get ready for bed. And so it was something that I looked forward to that was fun. It's kind of an interfering behavior where it would stop me from if I'm watching a show or if I'm scrolling on my phone. It was just time to go do something. And because it was somewhat fun, I was listening to a book that I was interested in, it made it a lot easier to go and get to bed early. And this is the first year where I really feel like I cracked that bad habit. Lesson 18, this is the last one. So this is more personal, but it applies broadly. So eyes half open, half closed when you're with lots of people in tight quarters. So there's been a couple of times this year where I've been on family trips, multiple families in very tight quarters, and it's easy to get on each other's nerves. And sometimes we say things that we don't mean, or people say things they don't mean. And it's very easy to get butthurt or to get defensive. And so when you're in tight quarters like that, it's just good to have like eyes half open, half closed means give people the benefit of the doubt. Don't see everything. If you're bugged with them, they're probably bugged with you. And this was just a good lesson. My dad actually shared this phrase with me, and it's a lesson I'm going to take moving forward for the rest of my life. So hopefully you found some of these useful. Hope you had a great 2025, and let's go and have an even better 2026. Cheers.